Hello, Foxy listeners, and welcome to episode 164. In today's episode, I sit down with my guest, Nancy, to talk about the difference between creating a business and a job for yourself, how you can have a thriving business and the time for yourself and your family that you've always wanted, and how and what crucial numbers you need to know so that you can grow your business. We also talk about so much more. So tune in, get a pen and paper because there is a lot of information coming your way. Let's dive in. I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Welcome, Foxy listeners. I have an amazing guest for you today. So make sure you grab a notebook and sit down because you are definitely going to want and need to take some notes for this episode. Nancy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have a chat with you.
So before we sort of get into the nitty gritty of stuff, give us a little bit of a background on you.
Okay. So I was the poster child for you've got to get good grades in school so you could get into a good college, so you could get a good job, so you can work really hard and have your great life later. And I
right, at retirement.
Right. Which we're not guaranteed a later. And, you know, a lot of us have had plenty of examples of we're not guaranteed a later. So, and, you know, to give a little perspective, I grew up in New York and I went to school in Boston and then came back to New York, and I was working in the city, and I was working 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, almost every night, doing what I thought I was supposed to do and doing what everybody expected me to do. And I didn't know it could be any different, or I didn't even think that it could be different. And I was just working hard because that's what people did. And I was the CFO of a company. I helped them get sold. And that was a pivotal point because I was fried. I was burnt out. I was good at what I did, but I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I was just tired. And the perfect timing, my brother was expecting their first. And so I'm like, I'm taking the summer off. And then I started a business with a friend of ours. And I was doing something I loved with freedom over my time. I could come and go as I wanted. And my feet barely hit the ground. I was loving my life. And I want everybody else to have that too. Now, I did learn a couple of lessons because that business ended up not surviving when the economy tanked. And because I wasn't watching the most important numbers, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So my mess is what I teach from. And now I have a business that I love and with freedom of my time, and I help others have that also.
Well, and I love that you said that because I think what happens a lot of time is people will see other business owners and stuff like that thriving. And then they're like, but that's nice and everything like that. But I have struggles, not realizing so did everybody else who got up there. We just tend not to talk about them because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're only supposed to talk about, the success and stuff.
Yes. So many people. I have another program that I teach is the trap of comparison, because people, especially when how many times do you look on social media and you see friends and family and other people saying how great their life is? It's not always true.
Yeah. The funny thing
It's
is,
shattering. It's not always true.
I
People
know.
fake things on internet.
Well, and it was funny because I was just on holidays seeing my family. And so I'm in Canada. So I was like across the other side of the country. And there was this gorgeous house that was for sale. And my friend was the one who designed this house. So she was like, if you get a chance, there's an open house today. Go check it out. I'd love to get your feedback on this new design that I'm trying. And so I was like, that's great. And as we walk in, there was 4 different people in different areas, because it's a huge house, like a multi-million-dollar house. There was 4 people in different areas that were taking photos. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So I asked the realtor, and she says, people will actually rent time in the houses to take stock photos. So here's all these people putting these photos out on their social media, and it's not even their kitchen. Like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, to me, it was just such a foreign concept. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, they'll take pictures of themselves with like a coffee in the kitchen or whatever. And I'm like, but in this kitchen? And they're like, yeah. And then they post it. And I'm like, but aren't all of them going to have the same kitchen? Like, but it's just funny how that is, we don't think of that. We just see this person in this kitchen and you're like, gosh, I wish I had that, not realizing that they don't have that either.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about, because, you had mentioned that you started this, your own business with your friend, and you fell in love with it and it didn't really work. And so you created this new one. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between sort of creating a business versus a job, because I think a lot of people get stuck in entrepreneurship going, this is kind of the same thing as corporate. Like, I'm working all of the time. I've sort of just bought myself my own job.
Absolutely. Oh my God, this is such a big issue. So many people. So people start businesses for all kinds of reasons. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I could do it better. I want to be my own boss. Like, whatever your reason is. But let me tell you something. If you can't get sick or take a vacation without the money stopping, you don't have a business. If so many people are the one person doing the thing, and if you're the one person doing the thing, like my grandfather used to be an accountant until the day he stopped working, but he was the one. Sometimes he had an assistant, but he was always the one that had to go to the clients. And when he went into the hospital, the revenue stopped. And I have a client, when we first started working, when she first hired me, she had an assistant and she fell in that category. She went to all the clients with her assistant. And after working with me for a year, she now has 6 employees and growing. She has 2 teams that go out independently, so she doesn't have to go to the client site anymore. She's not the only one doing the thing. And now she has a growing business.
Right. And I think that, we get stuck in that a lot, right? Because like you had mentioned before, I think that sometimes we get stuck in, how am I going to have someone else do it? Because I have all of the knowledge, I have all of the experience. So if I send someone else in, I'm going to look unprofessional.
So there's a lot of that, the risk of looking unprofessional, or nobody can do it as well as I can. Yes, it's your zone of genius, and there's a freedom when you can give up a little bit of the control. You know your business the best, so you can train your people to do things your way, or the most important things. Make sure that they're in. I think the most important thing is, when you're building the team, make sure that you are attracting the right people. It doesn't always have to be people exactly like you, because sometimes it's really great when you find people that are not like you. Like there are things in my business that I don't really like to do or that I'm not good at. So you hire people that have the same vision for where you want the business to grow to, how you want the business to be run. But then you bring in people that love to do the things that you don't love to do. So even when I was in the other business, like I started a business making jewelry. My friend needed help. And so I said, sure, I'll help you. And she taught me what I needed to know. And the first pair of earrings I made, somebody bought off of my head. I was like, wow, this is so fun. Let's do this. And when I needed pictures for marketing, I hired a photographer to do it. And then I wanted more as I got better designs and I made better things. And I'm passionate about photography, and that's one of my hobbies. So I said, why do I have to pay him? I can do it myself. And I did, but it took me 2 days to do what he did in a couple of hours. 2 whole days that could have been spent on revenue producing activities. So many times we trade time for money, and or we're like, I can do it myself because I don't want to spend the money. But if it takes you twice as long, like it did me, I could have been making sales instead. So there's a mind shift that needs to happen where it's like, all right, you don't have to be the only one doing it. And you know what? It would be great to have help, but also be a leader. Make sure everybody on the team knows where you're going, what's most important about the product and the business and the values, and then let other people help you.
Well, and I think that's important because I think, that mind shift that people need to have, because I always say to people like, but how much money did you lose by doing it yourself? And they go, well, none. I saved money because I didn't pay any. And I'm like, yeah, but you could have brought another client in. So like, what does a new client mean to you?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I just had this conversation yesterday and she was like, well, a new client is like an initial payment of like 5,000. And I'm like, so instead of spending the $250, you lost 5,000. And then she was like, well, crap. And I'm like, yeah, like it's all in the way you look at it, but it's right. It's right. What you say is that we have to sort of create that mind shift of going, but the whole reason why I'm hoping the whole reason why anybody listening started a business is because they didn't want to work all of the time. So we need to stop going, oh, well, I can do this better, because like you said, in a lot of cases, no, you can't. And that's good.
Right. And then the other thing that's tied to what you just said is I see how many times people are afraid to do the important things. Like they're afraid to do sales calls. And so instead, for whatever reason, they get in their head and like, you know what? I think I need to do my website again. I need to work on my website. You can spend so much time pretending to work or working on things that really aren't the most important. But if you're not bringing in sales, your business is not going to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think every entrepreneur is guilty of that. I know I have done that.
I have my days.
Yeah. Where I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, that is not what I plan to do all day. that day made no money. So let's talk a little bit about that, because, we're talking a lot about, knowing your numbers and bringing in money, but let's talk about, because some people might go, well, I kind of know, but what numbers do I really need to pay attention to? So let's talk a little bit about the critical numbers.
Absolutely. And I have a great free gift for your listeners that we can put in the show notes. And if you go to, and for those that are listening now, grab a pen. If you go to empoweredwithnancy.com/free gift, you could download it and you'll get a lot more information about the 3 crucial numbers and why it's so important. But for example, the first one that I talk about is gross profit. And even if you're not the person that even if you're not a numbers person, so if you're not a numbers person and you're glazing over saying, oh, she's going to talk about numbers and that's not me. I'm like, no, stay with me. Because even if you have an accountant that you trust that's going to be doing your accounting for you, it's really important as a business owner to know and understand the most important numbers. So it's going to give you the most power. So I'm going to empower you with knowing these, and I'll make it really easy. So the gross profit. So what is gross profit? If you take your sales revenue, so the money you collect from either selling your product or selling your services, whatever your primary source of revenue is, you take that profit, that revenue rather, and then you subtract the costs that incurred to either make those products or to deliver the services. So products makes it a lot easier. So it's like the raw materials that you have to import or bring in, the things that you need to make your thing. But like my friend is a massage therapist. So the expenses that she incurs to deliver her services, her towels, cleaning the sheets, buying the sheets, her essential oils, her massage oil, like all the things that she needs in order to do a massage for a client. Those are the expenses. So you want the direct expenses for those goods or services. And you subtract those from the revenue. And that's your gross profit. And you want that to be a positive number. And you want it to be a high number.
Ideally.
Right? But if it's not, okay, so if you're close to break even, which would be 0, have no fear. You have options. But now you know that there are warning signs and there are things that you can do. So it's a simple subtraction equation. So A minus B equals C. So if C isn't big enough, A needs to be either bigger so you can sell more, raise your prices so you can sell the same amount and still bring in more. Look at your expenses. Are there things that you can get a better price on? Are there expenses that you can cut out? Are there other options so that you can minimize the expenses and make it lower? Or maybe a combination of both. Raise your revenue a little bit, lower your expenses, and then you have more profit. But
and I think that's, because I hear this a lot. People go, well, I don't do my own books, but because I sort of come from that background, the majority of bookkeepers that I got to be careful on this because I might screw myself. So I'm going to try to word this tactfully. The majority of bookkeepers that I see that people have in their businesses are data entry bookkeepers. So they make sure that your numbers are inputted properly so that when it goes to the accountants, all the numbers are there. What a lot of people don't have is the bookkeepers that will look at the numbers and say, like, this is really weird. Like your phone bill seems to be higher than what it normally is. Or have you thought of this other supplier? Or, sort of gives you those tips and tricks because either they have other clients that are doing it or whatever. So I love that you're saying it is really important for you to know your numbers because you also know more stuff that, say, your bookkeeper isn't going to know, like other suppliers that you can check out and go, hey, can you give me a better price? Whereas they might not know that information.
Exactly. That is exactly why I am sharing this and teaching this, because it's true. A lot of the bookkeepers, and they're doing what they think they're supposed to do. They got to make sure that all the numbers are in, that they are recorded in a reasonable category, and that everything reconciles and the bank recs are done and your accounts reconcile and everything zeroes out and they tick and tie. But they're not necessarily the business advisor. And when I teach people that they need to look at these numbers on a regular basis, you have so much more power because you'll see trends. For a lot of people, they don't look, and they work really hard at their business and work hard, head down. I'm like selling, not looking at the numbers. And then they assume that because they've been working really hard and doing their job well, that at the end of the year, they will have made money. But and that may or may not be true. They may or may not have a positive number at the end of the year. So you have two options. You can do that and leave some of it up to chance, and you might get lucky. And because you've worked hard and did your job well, made money at the end. Or you can check these numbers and track them on a regular basis. So you can see, you know what? My profit is trending down. Why is it trending down? I haven't been doing anything different. Oh, look, some of my expenses have gone, they've raised prices on something, or something happened and I didn't realize. But now, because the year isn't over, I have time to react and be proactive. Hey, dude, why'd you raise my prices? Like, hey, what's going on? Or let's cut a deal, or find a different vendor. Like, you have options when you have the information and the signs to take action.
Well, and I think too, the other thing is when you're keeping a closer eye on this, you can also benefit from sales and stuff that people have, as well as you can look and go, hey, you know what? Like, it seems that consistently, like, and I mean, this works when you have years of data, but you can even go, you know, even just comparing month to month, like say, July and August, summer months, I don't see a lot of people because everyone's off doing stuff. So that's a good month to maybe run some promotions, as opposed to running promotions in months where people, like December, where people are like, I'm spending money, like I'm buying gifts. And I'm like, don't do sales then, because people are spending money. Like, do the sales when you want to bring in more revenue. So I love that you say that, to keep your eye on it.
And I love it. You touched on something that I teach my clients as well. So if you have trends and you know that there are months that are slow for your business, wouldn't that be great to know in advance so you can prepare for that slow month? Like, I have clients that have seasonal businesses, and there are a couple of months during the year that their business drops, between the kids being out of school, people on vacation, whatever their market's reasons are. But they know. So I'm not going to they're not upset when it's a slow month, like, oh, I don't have sales. Oh, but it's June. I know I don't typically have sales in June. Yeah. So they don't get upset, and they plan to save the money to be able to cover the expenses during the slow months, because they know their numbers.
Yeah. And I think that's important. Like, so to give people sort of an example, like, we have a Taekwondo business that we run. So we run essentially a school year, September through June. July and August we're off. So I pre-plan. I know that registrations go crazy because everybody wants to be, a ninja or Kung Fu Panda when that movie came out. Like, there's always an influx in September and October of all the kids that are joining sports and stuff like that. So we always get like a higher influx, but instead of just being like, woohoo, we had a great month, I prepay my rent for those summer months that I know we're going to have off. But if I wouldn't have looked at that, right, it would have been like, oh, this is really great. Like, woohoo, we have a little bit of a bonus, but I know, because of that pre-planning, that I know where I'm going to, allocate that money to. So when July and August come, it's like no sweat for me. I'm like, it's fine. Yeah, we got to close for 2 months, but I also have the opportunity that I can do that. Like, I'm like, yeah, no, we're not going to do summer programs anymore. Because we used to do summer programs to, be able to do that. And then I thought, why the hell are we doing that? Like, why aren't we just taking those really, really good months and compensating for those other ones, as opposed to working more? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think, like you had said, paying attention to that and noticing those trends, and then making something that works for you. And this could even be if you are just like, you know what, I am a summer person and I want to camp in the summer. You can plan that, but only if you're paying attention to your numbers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you said.
So How often do you think, or would you recommend somebody looking at these numbers? Because I know people might be like, okay, but well, like, what is often? So how often do you recommend?
Some of it depends on the individual businesses. It depends on how much activity you have, what's your sales volume. I know people that look at them daily and weekly, and they get a little crazy about, always looking every day, what's the bank balance, what's coming in, what's going out, and checking some of it. I would say absolutely at the bare minimum, you should know all of your numbers every month. You should be looking, but weekly, because if you're keeping track, if you're keeping up to date, then it's not a big deal. You push a button in your accounting package, your general ledger package, whether it's QuickBooks or one of the big robust packages. You run a report. Oh, okay. Compare that to the last month. Okay, good. And you're done. You could, in 15 minutes, you can have all of the numbers run and compared, and you're back to doing whatever you were going to do before.
Yeah. So what is the, so the first one is gross profit. So what is the second one that they should be paying attention to?
Net profit. So now you're taking all of your income. So it could be from other side projects, your interests, like if you have passive income, and then you take all of your expenses. So this is also your administrative expenses, your overhead, your rent, your phone, your internet, like everything else. And you subtract all the expenses from your income. And now you have your net profit. And now that tells you at the end of the day, are you making money or not? And again, if you look at that regularly, if you're losing money, you now have the opportunity to take action so that you can change the outcome for the year, because you now know, all right now things are not looking good. So what can I do? Let me look at the expenses, what's been trending up, what's been trending down, okay, now that I know that I'm losing money, what can I cut out, even if it's just temporarily? Do I really need to buy all of those snacks for the office? Do I really need to buy whatever? Maybe it's marketing, looking at how you're spending your marketing dollars. If it's not producing, maybe it's let's cut out or change that. You can look at the where you're spending the money and where you're making money and change the outcome.
Well, and I always say to people, because I hear quite often that people are like, oh, there's nothing that I can cut. And I always go, no, that's not true. Because one of the tips that I would like to give is, and this was something that I think it was my dad who said this to me, is he goes, if there's nothing you can cut, try figuring out how much money you save by paying things yearly. So usually you can get a discount. So like for your insurance and stuff. So then plan to do that. And then that can save you money. Because a lot of programs that people buy, if you pay monthly, of course, it costs you more. So Absolutely. You can still keep everything that you have, but maybe it's just the way that you pay it can save you sometimes hundreds and thousands of dollars, depending on what it is that you're doing. So
absolutely. And sometimes, a lot of times you can negotiate deals. I mean, so many times it's like, oh no, I have to pay my credit card. They set the interest. It is what it is. Oh, you mean you can call them and ask for a lower rate? Oh, you can do that? And they'll say yes, maybe? Oh, okay. And how many other things can you negotiate better deals? And if you want something bad enough, you'll figure out a way. Like, do you really need the top of the line? Do you really need the iPhone and the brand new iPhone where you're now paying an extra? No, I'm an iPhone girl. So yes, I do need an iPhone. Do I need the latest and greatest? Do I always hop for the new one? Not necessarily, but you get to choose. All right. You either have to make the income bigger or the expenses smaller to get the bottom line. If you want the bottom line you get to choose. Okay, if you don't want to cut the expenses, if that feels a little too hard, okay, you know that you need to raise your revenue a certain amount. How much do you need to sell? Go out and sell.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you that it's, you've got to get rid of everything you love. You just got to make the numbers work for you. Not for me, for you.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So we have checking our gross profit, checking our net profit. And then what is the third one?
So the third one is about revenue producing activities. So if it kind of goes along with what I just said before, like if you calculate how much your product or services cost, and how much do you want to make in a certain month or a certain year. So we want to make it nice and easy. So let's say and I'm really going to make it easy. Let's say you want to make $10,000 a month, and the product that you sell is $1,000 a program or a product. You have to sell 10 of them every single month to hit the number that you want to hit. So is that realistic? Because sometimes people say, they throw out a number that this is how much they want to make, all right, I want to make my 6 figures. I want to make my 7 figures. I want to make this number. I'm like, okay. And how much do you sell your products for? And that means you have to sell this many. And sometimes it's, oh, that's good. I can do that. That's reasonable. Or, oh my God, I can't. Like that's not realistic. So I'm like, okay, great. So now you know that the number that you're wanting with your current circumstances is not sufficient. It's not realistic. So how do we make it realistic so you can hit your number? So either you need to have maybe add a different program that's going to be a more expensive program. So if you're selling a $2,000 program, you only have to sell 5 of them. Maybe you can create something that's a higher ticket price, or you bring in somebody else that can help with sales, or adjust your expectation. I'm only going to make 5,000 at this point, and can I be okay with that until I do this, and then I'll ramp up. Like if you know how many items or programs you need to sell every month to hit your target, and then you have that as a goal, like and really like own it. I've suggested to my clients sometimes visuals work really well for me. I'm a visual person. So if you have like you can do whatever kind of a chart to keep it visual, especially with one of my clients, I said, make a chart so that you can enroll the team and gamify it. Like, do you remember, I'm sure you've seen the telethons where they would have the thermometer, and, as you're hitting the different targets, you color it in, or you have bubble charts. Do you know what a bubble chart is?
Yep.
So and for those people that might not know, you can make your own bubble chart super easy. I made mine. I opened up a Word document and I put circles, they insert the circle, you make it bigger, and I copy and pasted to have all my circles. And then whenever I'm launching a new program, I write in each circle, each new person that registers, so I can see when I hit my expected target.
Yeah, I do the heart-shaped Post-it notes, and I put those up so that I have them up, and then I write everybody's name into them, and then the goal is to kind of fill the chart or fill the hearts. I mean,
and isn't it more fun? Like, so you have this reminder, and it's like this goal that you're actively pursuing, and then you can make it fun and playful, and this way, oh, you know what? The month is halfway over. Do I have half of my sales? I don't. I better hurry up. I better
I think there's so many fun. Like I was just thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, what I never thought of is like, the little advent calendars that everybody does at like Christmas time, but the homemade ones, I was like, I should totally be using those. And then having like the little mini chocolate bars as a treat. Every time someone fills one of those in, oh, what's behind your door? Like it's exciting at Christmas. Why wouldn't it be exciting? I got to start that after this
I, I love it. Absolutely. Gamify it where it makes it happy for you. Like whatever you and your listeners, like what's going to make it happy for you? You can do different colors, you can do stickers, you can do Post-its, you can make it, pretty, just make it fun, but know how many numbers you need to hit. And there was a book that I read that had such a huge impact on me. Have you ever read Go for No, Yes is the Destination?
No, I haven't. I'm going to write that one down though.
It is a fast, quick book. I can't remember who wrote it off the top of my head, but Go for No, Yes is the Destination. And some of the lessons that really hit home. So there was a guy who was an insurance salesman, I believe, and he only had to hit like close 4 sales every month. He had a low target. And the first day, or maybe it was every week, could have been a week. Monday, he had a kick-ass day. Oops, sorry, I'm not fighting.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. And he closed like 3 out of his 4. So then the next day, somebody said, hey, you want to go play golf? Sure. I'm almost done with my quota. I just kicked butt. Absolutely. Then somebody else family member wanted help with something. Sure, I could help you. And then once you know it, at the deadline, he didn't hit his target, or he was like almost in, because he stopped selling because he was going for yeses and he had gotten almost all the way there, so he could coast. So if you're going for the no's, then it's like, oh, no, yep, I got a no. Good job. Okay, another no. Yay. Yes. Oh, okay. Going for no's. And then the other lesson that really hit home for me is we are human beings. And when we're selling, we're bringing our own personal beliefs and our own personal stuff to the exchange. So he was selling clothes and the owner of the company was there. And this guy came in and he wanted a new wardrobe, and he bought 2 suits and shirts and ties. And the guy left and he's like, whoa, did you see that? He's like, yeah, I saw that. That was great. What did he say no to? Nothing. Didn't you see? He bought the shirts and the ties, and he bought and the socks. Like, look at everything. He bought everything. But what did he say no to? Nothing. He said, he didn't stop shopping. You stopped selling, because he realized that in his own mind, he would never spend more than $1,000 at one time ever. That was like his personal limit. So when he was selling and the guy got close to $1,000, he stopped selling because he's like, he bought
That's enough. Yeah, that's enough. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So
very true how we go with that,
Yeah. It's like, oh, that seems like, if you're selling something that seems like it's a lot to you, that's something to really address and to deal with. Because if it seems like it's really expensive, you probably won't sell as much.
Well, and I think it's so true, because I look back on like the rate I started at, and I can't imagine if somebody were to come to me today. And I remember thinking that was a lot at the time. But when I look back and I go, would I work for that again? And I'm like, not a chance. Right. But every time I decide to like move up, because, whatever my reasonings are, my experience is up, or sometimes it's just the fact that people are buying. I'm like, obviously people want this. So like, it's time to raise the prices. I do always kind of go through that little thing of like, is this getting a bit much? Like, I don't know, like, should I be charging this much? I always think of that. Like, it's okay to keep growing my rate, because I've done this before and it worked. Like, I got to stop being scared of doing that, or of thinking, God, nobody's going to pay for this, because they have up to this point.
Yeah, it's so true. And so many entrepreneurs really struggle with that. I did too. When I first started, I'd never been a coach before. So I'm like, okay, well, are people going to pay me that price? Now, and it was funny because had to reconcile, like, are people going to pay? I'm like, but wait a minute. I just paid my coach every single week the same price as he was coaching me, mentoring me, helping me start my business. So I didn't have the money, and I figured out a way to get it because it was important to me, and I paid it because it was important. So if I paid somebody else, why wouldn't somebody pay me? It's like, but I think everybody struggles with every time it's ready to up level and charge more. It's like, should I?
Yeah. Is this going to work, or have I hit my ceiling? Yeah. And I always go, yeah, there's no ceiling. Like,
there's always somebody bigger out there that you can look to and say, hey, I'm in a business where I can always point to Tony Robbins, and there's always room to escalate. There's going to be room. So
yeah. And that's what I always say. Get to that point where you have a price that you're like, I'm going to make this so outlandish because I actually don't want to do this. And I did that once where I was like, I'm really good at doing this task, but I really don't like it. So I'm going to make it so outlandish that nobody will buy it, because they'll just be like, that's ridiculous. And then when people started buying it, I was like, crap, like, how long have I been underselling myself? But to me, I thought, oh no, I'm just going to make it like, so ridiculous that people are like, no, thank you, I'll go see someone else. So I think, yeah. And it takes a lot to get yourself out of that. But there's lots of coaches out there who can help you.
Absolutely. So what was the thing for you that had you raise your prices? And like, how did you deal? Like, what thoughts did you have, or what got you to say, okay, I'm doing it, and I'm okay, and I'm going to charge more?
For me, it was because I have a similar story to you. I was working all of the time, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, there's so much money that's coming in. But I'm stopping myself from making more because I only have so much time in a day. So I was charging hourly, and there's only so many hours in a week that you can charge, that I could bill for. And I went, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And I actually it was when I got my brakes done in a mechanic, and I asked them to like break it down. And the guy was like, actually, it's just sort of a standard rate. Like, an experienced technician can do the brakes in, I don't remember the exact amount, but let's say 3 hours. So we charge 3 hours. And I was like, what if you do it in 1? And he's like, then I make more money. And I'm like, what if you do it in 4? He's like, then I lose money. And I was like, this is freaking brilliant. Why am I not doing that? Like, why am I still charging hourly? Like, because I realized that what I was doing, and it was a huge mind shift for me, because my first job, I was paid hourly. When I went into the government, I was paid hourly. Like, I was, even on my salary was sort of based on an hourly rate. So that was just so commonplace for me. But it took me a long time and a very good coach that got my mindset out of realizing that by charging hourly, I was actually penalizing myself for being efficient and being knowledgeable. And once I had that mind shift, I realized, oh my gosh, how many years, could I have been making more money? But that's okay. We're just going to go forward and do that. And so it took me over a year to do that mind shift. But it was just realizing that I'm penalizing myself by staying at this lower rate because I wanted to be fair, because I had customers for over 10 years. I had all of the excuses. And when I did, the most, I don't think I lost any clients. I think the most common thing I got is, I was kind of wondering when this was going to happen. Like, and I was shocked at that. Like, I was like, you could have said something before. And they're like, why would I? I was kind of getting a deal. But yeah, we figured this was going to kind of come at some time. And I thought, all this time I spent worrying and what ifing and, putting my own thought process on other people, I ended up taking money out of my own pocket. So
that goes back to where we started the conversation, the job or a business.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in that, I'm exchanging time for money mindset, you're going to pay me hourly, then it really is a job mindset. And are people paying you for your time, or are they paying you for the results that you're delivering? Which is really the big shift. And it's good for you to know that too in all of the marketing. Like, people are not paying me for the conversation, for my time on our conversation. I mean, in a way they are, but they're not paying me because I talk to them for, an hour at a time on a Zoom meeting. They're paying me because I give them the results, and that they make more money in less time, so that they have more time to spend with their family. They can go on vacations and not be tied to the phone, that they can, enjoy whatever it is that they want to enjoy and still make more money in their business. That's what they're paying me for. And if I do it in less time because I'm efficient, then that's great. And some of my clients, we went through that same thing. It's like, well, I get things done faster. Like, that's why you're in the business that you are. It's your zone of genius, because what comes so easily to you doesn't come easily to others. I went through that with the accounting. It was like, you mean some people have a tough time reconciling their bank statements? Some people don't know how to do, like, print out a financial statements? Really? It's so easy. Like, it's not so easy for some people. Oh, that's why they want me. That's why they need me. Okay, I get it now. Took a while.
Yeah. But I think we get stuck in that a lot, right? Because we think, we often think, especially if it's something that's very easy for us. And I think a lot for people who are in sort of a service-based industry that go, like, I feel really bad about charging for that. And I went through that a lot, because I have people who are like, look, I want ideas for collaboration, and I wouldn't charge for it because I'm like, I'm not doing the work for you. I'm just giving you the ideas, like, and they just pop into my head and then I just say them. And, and then I realized, this is dumb. I could be making a lot of money off of this. Like, but to me,
and that's so common. It's
yeah,
so common with so many entrepreneurs.
because you feel like it's so easy for me to be able to give this and to just throw it out there, that it just feels like I shouldn't be charging for that. It's super easy. But like you said, it's easy to you, but it's not easy to somebody else. So somebody else goes, I don't want to have to print out the financial statement and read it. I want you to read it and then just tell me what's wrong with it, because it just hurts my brain to look at that.
Yes. So, and you said a couple of things. So yes, if somebody's asking you for help or for your advice, it's because they don't know, and it comes easy to you. So I am giving you permission to not feel guilty about charging for your genius. If they don't know it and you do, and they're coming to you for help, it's okay if you know what? And sometimes if you want to cut them a deal, give them the friend and family rate, or if you want to add that as a bonus on top of something else, but do not devalue yourself in your zone of genius. So I'm giving you permission. It's okay to charge for it. And when you say, I just want somebody else to print it out and tell me, I hesitate to agree to that. Like, yes, somebody else can print it out for you, but it's good to always, I'm of the mindset that you should always know what's going on in your house. You don't have to be the one doing it, but you should know, because you can be lucky and you can have very trusted, amazing, talented, gifted people working for you that have your back and will take care of everything as if it's their own, but it's not their own. And there's also a great risk of people either not doing it intentionally, or taking care of things by negligence, or not with malicious intent, but sometimes it is. So just know, like, even the Fortune 500 companies, they'll still get the packets. They still see, let's just look at the couple of numbers.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And I wasn't meaning like all of the time, because I do agree with you that it is important for people to definitely know their numbers. And I also think it's important to step back into all of those areas of your business, even if it's just for a little bit, um, to remember what it's like to do those jobs. Because I found that even sometimes I forget, and then I'm like, why isn't this getting done? And then when I step back and actually do the role, because maybe somebody's away on holidays, I go, oh, it does two things. One, it reminds me how tough sometimes the jobs are. It also reminds me why I don't like doing it, and helps me to solidify why I'm okay paying for it. Let me tell you, when my assistant goes away on holidays and I do some of the filing and she comes back, I'm like, I love you. I'm so happy you're back. Did you have a good rest? Please file this stuff. I do not like filing.
Thank you for being.
But it's in like, and she's always like, just leave it for me. And I go, no, because it really helps me to remember, like, one, I want to always be able to appreciate you, but I want to actually know what's going on. Cause sometimes I'll look at stuff too and I go, hey, wait a minute. Like, it registers something, I think, in your head if you're looking at, invoices, or you're looking at, stuff that's coming in. Sometimes you go, this is interesting, or you go, why are we paying for this? Like, what? Because I did that. Going, why am I paying for this? What is this? And she was like, it's a subscription. I'm like, I'm not even reading it. We need to get rid of that. But if I wouldn't have gone through the papers, I wouldn't have seen it.
See, and that's exactly, I started a new program called Money Dates, and it was born out of an accountability group I started with two friends who said in a networking group that they were behind in their bookkeeping. And I said, do you want to just meet every week? And because I was kind of behind too, and I know better, and I was behind. So we got together every week, and it was so powerful for all of us, having this container and the accountability. There were weeks where I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I don't wanna, but because they were expecting me to show up, I did. And then after an hour and a half, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better that I got that done. I got the filing done. But by doing that, it made sure that my numbers, like all of my bookkeeping, was up to date. And like so it was funny, like what was considered bookkeeping. Oh, I sent out invoices for something that needed to be done. Oh, that counts. Or, recording, I deposited checks, and so I recorded them in my thing. That counts too, like running these reports. And there were several times when I was going through my numbers. I'm like, what is this subscription? What is this recurring? Oh, wait. Oh, no. We need to cancel this. I thought that was a free trial, or I stopped looking at that and I thought it ended, and they keep, no. So they loved it so much and got so much out of it. They're like, you need to sell this. So now I have a new program called Money Dates, where we create that container in a fun way, and you get to come in and get it done. Whether you're recording your own transactions, you're looking at the numbers, you're running the reports, you're looking to see, are there invoices outstanding that people haven't paid for yet that I need to make a phone call, like just to get all of that stuff up to date and handled and stay on top of.
Well, and I love that. And I think that that's, definitely a great tip for people, because I think, especially when you're, starting out, or even just starting to build your team, creating, money dates like this, or even if you want to do like social media dates, or for whatever in your business you sort of struggle doing, it helps you to kind of have that accountability, have other people that you can sort of, run ideas off of, but also helps you not to feel like you're kind of stuck doing it all by yourself. Because let's face it, we can make excuses on our procrastination, I think, as entrepreneurs, because we're very ingenious.
Except that they're not excuses in our head. They're reasons.
Yes, exactly. But I think deep down, if sometimes we look back, we go, that was an excuse.
It was totally an excuse. No, it's just the way how it occurs to us is, no, that was a really good reason for not doing it. Was it really?
That's what I always go. If like a staff member came to me, would I accept this excuse? And I'm like, no. I'd look at them and go, no, come back and try again. Like, but we allow ourselves to get away with that. So I think this is great because I think, it gives people a good sort of idea of where they need to be looking. Because ideally, at the end of the day, what we want is to have a thriving business, because I don't think there's anybody out there who's like, I want to start a business so I can work, 60 hours a week, never be able to take holidays, never be able to have a sick day or everything will crumble, and never get to spend time with my family. That's perfect. And on top of that, I want all of the stress of having to deal with the money. So let's sign me up for that. Like if that was how it went out, people would be like, no, thank you. I don't really want that. So let's talk a little bit about the program that you created, Thrive. And, I know it's a very large topic. So, and there's a lot to it. But can you sort of give us sort of a brief little look into Thrive?
Absolutely. So my Thrive system, T is, help you have more time for fun. T is time. H is help. So I help my clients clarify who they work with and what they're doing so that their messaging is on target and is effective. The R is revenue. So I help you find more revenue opportunities and make greater profits, like we talked about before.
And I think that's great because I think sometimes it's really hard for entrepreneurs to see something, like somebody else can come along and go, why aren't you charging for that? And then, and give them that idea. And that's what you're meaning by that. Okay.
Yeah. It's in one way. I mean, there are a couple of different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just a piece of it. Yes. And then the I in Thrive is identify your goals and then create a plan to achieve them. So like we talked about before with the trap of comparison, it's like, what are your goals and how do you define success? Because it's different for everybody. So like I have a client that she got to a point where she's like, I never expected to be making six figures and having this many staff. And she's like, I just need to take a break because I can't grow more. I need to stabilize at this level first and get used to this level. And then I'll call you when I'm ready to level up again. And then she did. But it's because it was based on her, we got her to her goal. And then she had to get comfortable with that, not my definition of success. So it's, do you want that Lamborghini that so-and-so is standing in front of on Facebook, or to be in that house that you saw all of those people posing in? Like, okay, well, then what is it going to take to get there? Or do you just want to make, this much money so that you can work 3 or 4 days a week and have more time with the kids? It's what's the life that you want?
Yeah. And I think that's important for people to really figure that out, because I mean, the house was beautiful. I will have to say, I mean, it had a lot of nice stuff to it, but as everybody's going through oohing and awing, I'm like, I would hate to clean this place. Like, just looking around, like that's all I was thinking of, like, oh, the furniture, and then trying to figure out what you want to put in each room. Like my husband's like, you're weird. And I'm like, it's just not a goal of mine. Like I'm trying to downsize, not upsize. Right. But it's,
you know what? I get that too, because I look at some of these beautiful mansions and I think the same thing, but I'll tell you, if you had the house that size, you're not cleaning it. Somebody else is cleaning it.
But still, even then, like I am one of those people who still tidies up before my girl comes. Like, so I would still be doing it then. But like, I'm just like, because I think too, like that was a big goal of mine. And I remember being younger, like I wanted to be in a big, huge house. And now I'm sort of going, there's only 3 of us. Our family's not growing much more. Like we each have our own room in this house. Like we each have a living room and then like a bedroom. I think we're good. I don't think we need to upsize anymore.
I want my own studio in the house. I want this, but I don't want those big mega mansions. I'm like, it's too much space that I won't use. So I'm with you. I would rather have the travel and the experiences.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Sorry. So we have to identify
You
now
and
that
I are on the
we're
same.
giving you ideas on how to identify.
Yeah, and it's okay for however you define it is okay. And we'll create the plan. I help you create the plan for what you want. Like it's totally individualized. And then I help my clients value their boundaries.
Which is a big one.
Big one. Yes. And then the E is enjoy your business and your personal life. And so that's what my Thrive system is. Time, help you clarify who you work with, revenue, so you have more revenue coming in, identify your goals and create the plan to achieve them, value your boundaries, and enjoy your life.
Because really, at the end of the day, we do want to have a business that we enjoy doing, that you want to do, that you get excited for. And not to say that there's not going to be days. I mean, there's days in my business where I'm like, let me tell you, if it's a Friday, Friday is when like the dust get clean off, and it's like always a struggle for my poor assistant. She's like, all the stuff you didn't get done needs to get done on Fridays. And I'm like, like I'm a pouty teenager every single Friday that comes around. So she knows how to incentivize me, but it's, there are going to be some of those days, but really at the end of the day, I still really do love Friday because I get mini chocolate bars.
Well, and another tip for the listeners is like one of my invitations, suggestions is to schedule everything in your calendar. Like schedule everything. And I mean everything. Date nights. If going to the gym is important, schedule it. If you and schedule them accurately. So like if you plan on taking a shower after the gym, which I do encourage, make sure you schedule that in your calendar too. If you need to prepare for a meeting, schedule that. Like make sure, date nights, friend time. If meditation is important, schedule it and put it in your calendar. Because I worked with somebody who was so overwhelmed with time, and she was definitely one of those that was working crazy hours through the night, not sleeping because, I'll sleep when I get caught up. And then when I had her do it, she's like, no, I don't need to put it in a calendar. I have an Excel spreadsheet. Everything's in the spreadsheet. I said, but schedule it, and schedule it realistically in your calendar. And she came back really frustrated because it didn't fit. And I said, I know it doesn't fit because I can see the way you're living your life. And I hate to break it to you, but you have 24 hours in a day. It is fixed. I haven't figured out a way to get more than that. I've been trying, but just like doing a jigsaw puzzle and you have like the borders, that's your container. It can't get bigger than that. So now you get to choose how you're filling your day. And if things don't fit, then you can now take a look and say, all right, what gets shifted? What gets delegated to somebody else? What conversations do I have to say, you know what? I can't help you with that. I can't do that. I can't take that on. Or can you do this so I can do this? Yes, I'll help, but there, it's a fixed container. Yeah. And the things that are important to you, like when we do value your boundaries, it's something. So when you have your time blocked to get your desk cleared, like schedule that. And if something else comes up, sometimes emergencies come up or important things, but then reschedule it. If it was an important appointment with somebody else, you would be rescheduling it. Treat yourself with the same respect. If it's important to you that you put on the calendar, reschedule. I'm like, okay, I didn't get it done today, but where can I squeeze it in and let me move it, not just forget about it.
Well, and I think, I like what you said about being realistic about it, because sometimes we do those, I call it an ideal day. So I'm like, fill out here's everything that you're going to do in the week. And then for a couple of weeks, take it and fill it in exactly how long it took you. Because some things might take you a shorter amount of time. Like I remember I scheduled in, I can't remember, I think it was like 40 minutes or something to just tidy up the house and stuff. And I was like, that's way too much time. Like it really only takes me like 15 minutes tops. And then there was other things that I was like, oh, an hour and I'll check my email, or, an hour and a half to do all of those tidy things on Friday, was extremely unrealistic. It's now 4 hours on Friday because that gives me the time that I need. So I think, checking those is important.
I bought myself a little timer, which is really great. It's this cute little clock. And then depending on which way I put it down, it'll beep at 30 seconds, 30 minutes rather, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. So for like my social media time.
Ooh, I love that.
That I can just sit there and like, okay, 15 minutes is enough. And then it'll beep after 15 minutes so I can cut it off. And so that's another good suggestion. And the other thing I suggested to the same woman before, if you're one of those that always has those emergencies that come up, like in one of the things, she's got rental properties. And so she often has these emergency calls that she's got to deal with. Schedule that time for emergencies in your calendar. You don't need to know what the thing is, but if you often have something that derails your day, that sends you like, schedule the 1 hour fluff emergency, put the fire out time, whatever you want to call it. And you know what? If you get lucky and you don't have a fire to put out, bonus time. You could do whatever.
Yeah.
But this way, when a fire comes up, it doesn't derail your day because you were planning on it. You just didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And then you can move that slot wherever it needs to go. I love that. That's a great tip. So give us where people can find you, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening right now who, either thrive, really stuck with them and they're like, I need to do this. And that they're feeling, I need help with this. I don't want to do it myself. I want to actually contact somebody like Nancy who's going to help me actually implement this. So where can they go to learn more about you?
Thank you. Well, I make it nice and easy. Empowered with Nancy, because I do it with you, not for you. So empoweredwithnancy.com. On Facebook, Instagram, it's all Empowered with Nancy. On LinkedIn, it's my name. I don't have the business site yet. So depending on when you're catching this, it may exist in the future, but that's Nancy Abramson. But if you do Empowered with Nancy, you can find me everywhere. And I am starting to shift a little bit, and I'm starting to work with young people now. I've gotten so many hints from so many different ways, directions, that I finally, I'm taking the guidance. So if you or anybody you know is like one of those like 20 somethings that either are choosing to start a business instead of college, or starting a business while you're in college, and you don't know what you don't know, but you want it fast, you want that business up and running, and you're not quite sure how to do it well, that's who I'm starting to serve.
Oh, I love that. So we're going to make sure that we have all of those links in our show notes and on our blog as well. And we're also going to include the link that people can get the 3 crucial numbers so that they can have more information. I downloaded it myself. And I actually have it up on my screen right now. And so you guys have to go, because I'm not going to give away what is in there, but there is more information on exactly what to look at. And there's a really good breakdown of what we talked about, the 3 numbers that you need to know. So if you're still going, okay, I wrote down gross profit, net profit, and I don't remember anything else, it's okay. Go get this freebie, and it explains it all in detail.
Absolutely. Get a pen. It's empoweredwithnancy.com/free gift. It is, I'm very proud of how it came out. And with that, you will have what you need to be able to know how well your business is doing, to really know, like, are you making money, or are you just spinning your wheels to break even or lose money at the end of the year? We don't want that. So I'm going to give you the power so that you can know now, and then you could take action so that you can change the outcome at the end of the year.
I love it. Nancy, thank you so much for spending time with me and for all of your great tips. I know I really enjoyed it, and I know that everyone listening got a lot from it as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
I hope you guys got as much out of this episode as I did. So don't forget to head to our website, foxtalksbusiness.ca. Click on blogs on the left-hand side. You're going to see this episode, and I'll have all of the links that you can connect with Nancy, as well as grab your free gift about the 3 crucial numbers. So you're going to want to make sure that you head and check that out. As well, we did our Stop Trading Minutes for Money Masterclass in July, and it was a big hit. So we're going to be doing another one. So this is for you if you are charging an hourly rate and you want to either work less, make more, or both. In this masterclass, I'm going to show you how to change your thought process so you can do just that. I'm going to give you tips on how to look at what you're charging, how to shift out of the hourly mindset, and as well, how to take your existing clients with you over to the new rates with ease. There are 2 tickets, general admission, which is only $27, and our VIP admission, which is $47. The VIP gives you access to a special 1-hour after event where you can ask more questions about your specific situation. And you're also going to receive some additional information and tips that are not going to be shared in the original presentation. So we're going to have the links for all of that. And I hope you'll join me. This was something that was so pivotal in my business and really helped me to finally get to that position where I was not having to count every hour of my day, and I was able to just get up and go kayak in the summer, or I was able to take time off to go on a field trip with my son, or whatever it is that you want to do. Even if you just want to be able to pick up and go shopping or take lunch, it doesn't matter what the reason is. This is why we started business. And this was so pivotal to me. So this is why I'm sharing this with you, and also sharing some of the difficulties that I went through doing this so that you don't have to. It's going to be super easy for you because you get to learn from all of my mistakes. So no matter what you're doing today, above all, make sure that you find time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?